So in case any of you thought that, like I thought, that I was hallucinating today because there were so many trucks here. And when I came back out of puja, they were still shoveling the gravel into the pit where we're having 6, not 5, 6 cisterns. And we'll have a total approximately 10,500 gallons. So that should make a difference. And we cannot walk on the sand filters. So tell your feet. But it's actually absolutely amazing. Maybe we'll finish the project. You know, like it's already over a year late, you know. But anyway. Yeah. Child labor? Oh, he was with his mama. Yeah, he's supervising mama. Okay. Something with water. Yeah, she said, but Venerable.
She was helping with the drainage system and stuff, but she was just picking up a vehicle that had been stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, wow. I'm just shocked because usually Friday is dead silent. And this last 2 weeks, we've had so much dust that it's exciting. You can see the progress through the dust sometimes. Okay.
To the teacher endowed, transcendent destroyer, oneness gone, foe destroyer, completely and fully awakened one, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, one gone to bliss, nor of the world supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, stayer the Buddha endowed, transcendent destroyer, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When are supreme among humans, you are born on this earth, you paced 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I bow. With your body's form supremely fine, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best supreme guide, to you I bow. With the supreme science, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I bow. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not incomparable, wise one, to you I bow. Great compassionate protector, all-knowing teacher, field of merit and good qualities, vast as an ocean, to the Tathagata I bow. Through purity, freeing from attachment, through virtue, freeing from the lower realms, unique, supreme, ultimate reality, to the Dharma that is peace I bow. Having freed themselves, showing the path to freedom, too well established in the trainings, the holy field endowed with good qualities, to the Sangha I bow. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind completely, this is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, a bubble. A dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through this merit may sentient beings attain the state of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from the ocean of cyclic existence, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strew Mount Meru, o'erland sun and moon. From billowing clouds of your wisdom and love, let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma, in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniryatayami. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. So let's cultivate our motivation. So try to recall what refuge meant to you when you first took it, that very first time. What did it mean to you?
And then think about what refuge means to you now. And how would you like to deepen your refuge even more? And what kind of things help you to deepen your refuge? And how does taking refuge influence your cultivation of bodhicitta? And then cultivate bodhicitta as your motivation for listening to the teachings this evening. So I actually led questions for a discussion group instead of led a motivation. But remember the questions and we can do a discussion on it later at some time. I want to continue with the book this evening. But did you see a difference between what refuge meant to you when you first took it and what it means now? Yeah. So has something changed in your mind? Are you more grounded in your life than you were before? Okay, so we're still on chapter 3, on the bottom of page 84, talking about the practice of taking refuge. And we were going through the common guidelines that pertain to all 3 jewels. Okay, so just to review from the beginning, the first one was mindful of the qualities, skills, and differences between the 3 jewels and non-Buddhist refuges, and mindful of the differences among the 3 jewels themselves, repeatedly take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So one of the birthday presents I received very kindly from Venerable Jigme was a book called Preparing for War. Great to receive that on your birthday, huh? I don't think that's a good title for the book, yeah, but it talks about white Christian nationalism and how that developed in this country. And for me, it's quite interesting to see, what refuge, means in that context, yeah, and how you live your refuge, because it's so different than Buddhism. Yeah, it's really very different. Yeah, so it's quite an interesting book, and it'll go in the library when I'm done. But I must say, it really helps me. It makes me even more appreciate that refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha doesn't involve, it involves respecting all other religions instead of saying ours is the best, we should be on top, we have the one right answer. But as we hear, when we offered the mandala today, can the cloud of Dharma rain, the teachings on us according to each person's disposition. Yeah, so there will be different traditions, different ways of practices, and we respect all of them that the Buddha taught. Yeah, and that's quite important, because as human beings, we so easily get into what I call a football team mentality. You root for your own football team and you root for your own religion. And, you want to defeat everybody else and have more fans than anybody else. And that's not the way Buddhism sees things at all. Yeah, which is something I really appreciate. Okay, but that first guideline, thinking of the qualities, skills, and differences between the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha and other objects of refuge, like a creator God or saints or whatever, what's the difference in, the quality of the refuge? What's the difference in the characteristics of the objects of refuge? What's the difference in how you live your refuge. And so this is very helpful to think about because it helps us really see the special qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay. Can I go on? Okay. Okay, then the second one was remembering their kindness, make offerings to them, especially offering your food before eating. Okay, so that's a nice, making offerings is a very nice practice when you do it regularly, to remind ourselves of refuge, remind ourselves of bodhicitta, create merit on a regular basis. So it begins in the morning when you wake up and, if you have a small shrine in your room, then, making offerings to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, offering our food. Yeah. So it enables, if we remember that, then all throughout the day we have a chance to think about refuge and create merit with the three jewels. And the more we appreciate the characteristics of the three jewels, which I've found comes about through studying the teachings, then the more you want to, making offerings is something you want to do more and more, because just as, in regular life, if you really like somebody, you give them presents. Yeah. So, we do that very easily, don't we? Somebody's nice to me, I'll give them a present. But, when we think of the benefit that the three jewels give to us, then wanting to make offerings really makes sense. Of course, they don't need what we offer, but we need to offer. Okay, then the third was mindful of their compassion, encourage others to take refuge in the three jewels. So, like I said last time, we don't stand on street corners. The book I'm reading, was written by somebody who was an evangelical Christian when he was young, and he said he would go to school and, with a bunch of flyers, and he would stop other kids in the corridor and want to talk about, Jesus and getting saved and everything. And, I don't know, probably you've had similar experiences to me where people you don't know will come up and want to give you information or invite you to their church or whatever. So Buddhists don't do that. Yeah. What we can do is when people ask questions, take the time and answer the questions. And one of my friends told me once that her sister, who is a, what was it? Jehovah's Witness. Yeah. One time, Trisha, my friend, had left some Buddhist things, just on the coffee table or whatever. Her sister had picked them up and read something and said, "Oh, this is really nice. It's very similar to us." Yeah. And I thought, that's a very good way to spread the Dharma. You just, at home or wherever, you just, you're your usual messy self and you leave something around. I wouldn't leave Tsongkhapa's final exposition of emptiness, but something a little easier. Yeah, and you never know. And I think that's one nice thing about being a monastic. You're kind of, in a public way, people can stop and ask you. And it can have some very nice interactions with people. Okay. Then the fourth one, this is where we're starting today. Remembering the benefits of taking refuge, do so 3 times in the morning and 3 times in the evening by reciting and reflecting upon any of the refuge prayers. So you can just use the simple Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. You can use what we chanted at the beginning, I take refuge until I am awakened. You can just, in your own heart, in your own mind, touch base with your refuge. And for me, when I do that in the morning, I'm touching base with the meaning of my life. I'm touching base with, what's the meaning of my life? And refuge is the taking of refuge, that isn't it. But what refuge pushes me into, if I'm going to live it, is quite meaningful. Yeah. So you can do it out loud, you can do it just in yourself. And doing it first thing in the morning, also before you go to bed at night, it really makes nice bookends for the day. And then also periodically through the day, something happens that's a little bit, unnerving, and take refuge. Before you go in for a job interview or, talk to your boss or whatever it is, take refuge, generate bodhicitta. Okay. Then the 5th is do all actions by entrusting yourself to the 3 jewels. So whatever happens, whether you're sick or well, rely on the 3 jewels. So it's not a thing of, I rely on the 3 jewels when I feel healthy. I take refuge, I have faith in them when I'm healthy and things are going well in my life. Some people are like that. Other people, I forget about the 3 jewels and my refuge when things are going well because I'm enjoying my life and I'm getting what I want. But then when things go badly, then they want to take refuge. So what we want to do is combine those 2 and not have it one or the other, but to take refuge whether things are going well or whether we're having a lot of problems. Okay, so whatever happens, sick or well, rely on the 3 jewels. When you are nervous, anxious, or afraid, for example, before a job interview or when receiving the results of a medical test, take refuge in the 3 jewels. So this will help you to recall the Dharma teachings. That will be the most helpful for you to contemplate in that situation. So you're nervous. So what Dharma teaching will help you when you're nervous? You have to give a talk in front of a whole lot of people. Okay, and you're nervous. So what if you take refuge, you're kind of asking for advice. I see it as doing a 911 in that kind of situation, And so what teaching do you think the Buddha is going to respond and encourage you to contemplate if you're nervous or anxious before giving a talk? Mm-hmm.
I would contemplate that what I'm nervous about is the teaching that comes to mind is the 8 worldly concerns. Is this really just about good reputation and praise? criticism, or then stepping back and saying, okay, what actually matters is my motivation and how I use my speech in a virtuous way to actually create the karma that will matter for future lives.
Yeah. Yeah. So you come back, change your motivation. Anxiety is not a very good motivation for anything. Yeah. You know, in that situation of having to give talks, for years, I really, you know, I got put into the position of having to give talks. Lama Yeshmi told me to do it, and then when I was at Dharma centers, the first time I ever had to do a course by myself was on one day notice, because the person who was supposed to give the course was ill. And they said, oh, well, you can give it. And I was like, oh. And, you know, I had only been ordained a very short time at that time. And so for a long time, I just felt like, why am I doing this? It doesn't make any sense. I'm not qualified. And then it suddenly dawned me, well, not suddenly, it took some time, dawned on me that I was actually very fortunate to be able to share the Dharma with other people. Yeah. So rather than be nervous or feel unqualified or whatever, it's like, oh, this is a tremendous privilege I have to just share the little bit I know, you know? What I do is not going to be anything like my teachers, but I can, you know, you share the little bit you know, and people benefit. And then I thought, wow, you know, for years I didn't create any merit because when I had to do this, because I kept saying, why am I doing this? It doesn't make any sense. And so, you know, really thinking, oh, it's actually a privilege. You know, it's an opportunity to really do something useful in my life. And then, you know, then it really changes how you feel. So that comes about from taking refuge. Okay, then the sixth, do not forsake your refuge at the cost of your life or even as a joke. So treasure your refuge, respect your spiritual yearnings, and follow the path sincerely. Yeah, so really respect yourself and your spiritual curiosity and interest. Yeah, and when it says, you know, don't forsake your refuge at the cost of your life, you know, if you go to Russia and teach and you get arrested and they throw you in prison, you know, you stick with your refuge, yeah? Or even as a joke, you know, we crack jokes, you know, but they're about the three jewels, but it's how to say, it's humorous kind of silliness sometimes, yeah. But this is like, even as a joke where you're, there's something else you're trying to say, and so it looks like a joke, but it's not. Yeah, but I remember, you know, having this even as a joke. Well, does that mean I can't laugh about Buddha Dharma Sangha in any situation? And then one day, I don't know, I had to do something with Lama Zopa, and we were sitting there. I think it had something to do with a mandala. I don't know what it was. But Rinpoche started joking about, you know, oh yeah, all the deities coming to the mandala, you know, one comes in a plane from this direction and the other one zooms in on the fast train from that direction. And we were laughing, yeah. But so it let me know that, yes, that kind of humor is fine. We don't want to flippantly, you know, diss the three jewels. Okay, so the refuge guidelines are explained well in the great treatise on the stages of the path, so please study that section as well. So the next section is called Maintaining Proper Refuge. Since refuge in the Three Jewels is the demarcation of being a Buddhist, and deep trust in the Three Jewels is essential for Buddhist spiritual progress, we want to ensure that we keep our refuge purely, that we don't get things confused, that we don't brush it off as something that doesn't have much meaning. Yeah. So one of the guidelines for doing this, for keeping our refuge purely, is not to turn to other objects of refuge that lack the ability and the qualities to guide us to awakening. Okay, because if we start taking refuge with, the spirits when we do seances and the this and the that and all these kinds of things, we'll get really confused. And we won't really know, what are we practicing and why? Okay, so we don't want to turn to objects of refuge that are false objects and don't have the ability to guide us to awakening. So Buddha Shakyamuni is our teacher. For this reason, an image of the Buddha is found at the center front of the altar in a Tibetan monastery. The Buddha is our guide, the one who reveals the path to awakening to us. We wholeheartedly entrust our spiritual well-being to him. If we feel remorse for having acted harmfully or having transgressed our precepts, we should confess and purify this in the Buddha's presence because we revere and admire him, not because we're afraid. Okay, but because we revere and we admire the Buddha, and we know that we're not going to be judged, so we can be completely open about whatever we did that we don't feel good about having done. When we have earnest spiritual aspirations, we should likewise address them to the Buddha. Okay, so the Buddha is our teacher, the central refuge, yeah. However, acting as above is often not the case. When Tibetans enter the temple, they pay homage to the Buddha, but many direct their attention to the corner of the hall where there is a small dark room that is the protector's shrine room. It is here that Tibetans experience a sense of awe and cultivate restraint from negative actions. Okay, how many of you have been in a protector room? Like in the main temple and Dharamsala. Yeah, who do you see there? Do you see smiling Chenrezig? No, you see, Mahakala, Kala Rupa, Hayagriva, you see a wrathful deity. Yeah, and it's often, in a glass closet with a striped cloth in front, so that you have to really look closely. It's not something that the average tourist is going to see. Okay, so Tibetans, well, here's what His Holiness says. In front of the protectors, they are terrified of their destructive karma. They make offerings to the fierce-looking protectors rather than to the peaceful Buddha in the main temple. The monks in charge of the offering rituals to the protectors generate the most revenue. This indicates that people have not properly understood the important elements of Buddhist practice. Okay, And, you can see this in the Tibetan community. I mean, the Buddha's so peaceful, he's compassionate. Are you afraid of your negative karma in front of the Buddha? No. If I disrespect a little bit, Buddha's compassionate, I don't have to worry. But you see one of these wrathful protectors, with a lot of arms and fire coming out of them and bulging eyes and fangs and horns and weapons, and then all of a sudden, oh, okay, I better be good. Yes, I'm going to confess my infractions because I'm afraid I don't want to go to hell. The way they're looking at me is just terrifying. Okay. It's interesting how people's minds work, isn't it? Yeah, kind of like kids. Yeah, when you do something naughty, but mom and dad won't be mad, you don't worry about it too much. But when mom and dad come out looking similar to one of those protectors, then it's like, uh-oh, trouble, I'm in trouble. I better be good now. They're going to send me to my room and take away my privileges. Yeah, okay. It's really like a kid's mind, isn't it? So what His Holiness is saying here, is this is not the right kind of way to regard the various figures and the various altars. Our main object of refuge should be the Buddha who founded everything. And the Dharma protectors, some of them are Aryas and some of them are not. Yeah. And the Dharma protectors, usually when you attend a teaching, do you think of a Dharma protector giving it or of the Buddha giving it? You think of the Buddha giving the teaching, don't you? Yeah. So the Dharma protectors, we usually think of their principal function is to kind of wake us up, but to protect us, we should be able to give them, a banana or a mango or something, and then they'll, make sure everything's okay. Is that the right way to relate to a Dharma protector? Yeah. Okay. So I think one of we shouldn't just think that the protectors are there to shoo away, all the people with AK-47s, It's not that they're, Ma Kala's gonna zip down and it's like, get out of here. No, but, they protect the Dharma, yeah. But what is our greatest protection? Is it an external protector? What actually is our biggest protection when we practice?
That we understand. The Dharma we realize, understand our minds.
Yeah, it's the Buddha, it's, bodhicitta, and it's karma. What's going to prevent us from suffering? Yeah, it's following the law of karma and its effects. So what His Holiness is hitting here is that some people forget about following the law of karma and its effects. They forget about thinking of the results, the karmic results of their actions, and you just think that some external being who looks very fierce is going to be the one that protects them. Yeah. And that's mistaken. That's not, thinking like that isn't according to the Buddha's teachings, because our refuge, what we turn to, our real protection is what's going on in here. Yeah. Our real protections are the true paths and true cessations. Yeah. If we don't have those, then, following karma, not creating the karmic cause for suffering, is a very good way to protect ourselves from misery. Okay, and so we can appeal to the protectors and so on, but we should really have the proper idea of what their function is, and how to relate to them. And he's going to get into that here. So most Buddhist traditions speak of Dharma protectors, beings who help practitioners on the path. These Dharma protectors are of two types, supramundane and mundane. Supramundane protectors have directly realized emptiness and thus are included in the Sangha jewel. They're Aryas. For example, Pelden Lamo and Mahakala. Mahakala is a wrathful form. Pelden Lamo is a female form. She rides on a donkey. And when you look at her, same with Mahakala, it's like, they're wrathful. Okay. Other protectors, such as Nechung and the Four Great Kings. So the Four Great Kings are in the world, the desire realm god. They're one of the desire realm gods, in one of their realms, the lowest of them. And when you go to temples, you often see four protectors on the outside of the temples. Those are the Four Great Kings. Okay, so others such as Nechung and the Four Great Kings are worldly beings who have made promises to great masters to protect the Dharma and the practitioners. So these protectors are not included in the Sangha refuge. We can rely on them for temporal help for virtuous purposes in the same way that we would rely on a powerful person to help us in time of need. However, we do not seek spiritual refuge in them. So Guru Rinpoche, Padmasambhava, when he went to Tibet, one of the things he did is he calmed a lot of the spirits who were causing problems because Buddhism was new to Tibet. So they were making all sorts of problems and, hail coming down and, all sorts of things so that people couldn't really practice. So what Guru Rinpoche did is he tamed a lot of those, of those spirits and made them promise to protect those who practice the Dharma. Okay, so that's kind of, in Tibet, that happened very early on. That was when Buddhism was first coming to Tibet. And so the whole idea of protectors came quite, early. When we were in Taiwan, they spoke a lot about the Dharma protectors, and we have Wetu Pusa. Pusa means bodhisattva, so he's a bodhisattva. And then, again, who's promised to, to protect the Dharma and to protect sincere practitioners. Okay, they're not going to protect people who don't practice well because they made a promise to protect the Dharma and the sincere practitioners. And outside Chinese temples too, you'll see the Four Great Kings and you'll see other protectors. When I went to Venerable Zhenhu's training monastery, Chungtai. It's a huge monastery. When you first walk in, there's an enormous room with the Four Great Kings, and the statues are like from here to the ceiling, just enormous. And Yeah, it gives you a sense of awe, that's true. But it doesn't matter the size of the statues. You know, we should really remember what the protectors are for. And, you know, and we can seek their help, make prayers for different things. Yeah. But we shouldn't be praying, you know, can I win the lottery? You know. Okay. Then, His Holiness continues, then there are spirits who are of many levels and types. Just like human beings, some spirits are helpful and others harmful. Some spirits have clairvoyant powers, whereas others do not. Yeah. Some have virtuous qualities, others are angry and spiteful. So spirits are still within cyclic existence, and while some people may seek their aid, caution is necessary. Okay, so His Holiness continues here. I have noticed a trend for people who call themselves Buddhist to turn to spirits to attain worldly success. Okay, you can tell this is not a Dharma motivation. Yeah, you wouldn't, you know, if a monastery needs funds, you may ask one of the protectors to eliminate hindrances to receiving the funds for your virtuous projects. But for worldly success, for an individual or a family, yeah, then people very often ask spirits. Okay. So His Holiness says this is not beneficial for several reasons. First, because these beings help only in temporal ways. A spiritual practitioner's motivation will degenerate from one of bodhicitta to one of seeking wealth, reputation, or power. This clearly corrupts his Dharma practice. Okay, so if you go to these spirits and you're wanting worldly success, money and power and reputation, maybe if it's a nice spirit, they'll help out, but the spirits, like he said here, some of them are not so nice. So they may help out and then play a trick on you later, something like that. Okay, but what he's pointing out here is that if we go to protectors or we even go to the Buddha for worldly things, just with a very self-centered motivation, you know, that's not the proper way to relate to them. It would be like going to see the President of the United States and asking him for some chewing gum. You know, yeah, I think you know what I mean. Okay. Second, you know, why this is not beneficial is Buddhism does not accept the existence of an omnipotent being who can control what happens to us. When people worship spirits, they usually petition, please give me this, please do that. Okay, it seems that in their minds, they regard the spirits as quasi-omnipotent and think that pleasing them is the means to attain happiness. Yeah, kind of like you're bribing the spirit, you know, I'm giving you an offering, I'm praying to you, I'm praising you, so now go out and, you know, get rid of my competition so my business can be successful, or whatever it is, okay? So, and seeing these beings as omnipotent, they may have some power that we don't have. We respect that, yeah, but they aren't omnipotent, yeah. I mean, can you imagine the Buddha not being omnipotent, but some spirits having the power to change everything the way they want it? That doesn't make any sense at all, okay. So they think that pleasing the spirits is the means to attain happiness. This runs counter to the Buddha's teachings on karma and its effects. in which he clearly stated that we are responsible for creating the causes for happiness through abandoning harmful actions and creating virtuous ones, which will be the cause of happiness. Okay? And that's like a fundamental doctrine of Buddhism, that, we are the ones responsible. And it's not a thing of petitioning some external omnipotent somebody or another who can zoom in if we give the right offering and do abracadabra and make everything come out the way we want. Yeah. Okay. So we have to discipline our own minds and put effort into improving ourselves. For example, a simple monk who has faith in the path the Buddha set out, or as a simple monk who has faith in the path the Buddha set out. That's how he talks about himself. I'm a simple monk, I have faith in the path of the Buddha. He doesn't go around saying, I'm the Dalai Lama, the head of all the Tibetans. They all think I'm Chenrezig, and you should see everything I get for the long life pujas. You can't believe the amount of money they spend to give me statues and all sorts of stuff because I'm so important. Yeah, that's not the way the Dalai Lama talks. He says, I'm a simple monk who has faith in the Buddha. Okay, this is a good example for us. Okay, yeah. If His Holiness doesn't act self-important and arrogant, we who don't have anywhere near his qualities should act that way. Okay, for example, as a simple monk who has faith in the path the Buddha set out, I must restrain my mind from negativities and be mindful to act constructively. Look at Milarepa. There was nothing in his cave, yet he became a great practitioner. He did not propitiate spirits to increase his wealth or fame or to make his religious institutions successful. Yeah. So Milarepa, I have some nettles, I'll offer it to one of the protectors. Now may I be the leader of a great institution. May they build a huge monastery here and name it Milarepa's Monastery. Yeah. And then everybody forever and ever will know about me. No, it's not the way he practiced. And one day, some spirits showed up at his cave and started bothering him and doing all sorts of naughty things. And Milarepa, stopped and he said, "Why are you here?" And the spirit said, "Why did you call us?" In other words, when he was distracted in his meditation, when his mind went to the 8 worldly concerns, that was calling spirits to come and create problems in his meditation. Yeah. Okay. If many people begin to pray to an external being for worldly success, the existence of the Buddha's teachings will degenerate in our world. This is quite important because there is really a movement, like he was just saying, of many people to rely on protectors instead of practicing. Yeah. People will think, if I worship this deity, I'll be rich. If I worship that one, I'll live long. They will neglect to observe karma and its effects and will cease refraining from destructive actions and creating beneficial ones. Instead, They will expect an external being to save them from suffering and bring them happiness, and they will teach that to others. When Buddhist practitioners think and act this way, the beneficial influence of the Buddha's precious teachings in our world will decline. And you can see why. Yeah, because it just becomes like a theistic religion. Yeah. Ordinary people everywhere prefer to look outside of themselves to obtain happiness and alleviate suffering. It is easy for them to mistake the pujas and ceremonies done in Tibetan Buddhism as the worship of inherently existent external beings. And sometimes the language in the pujas actually gives us that feeling, yeah? So there are external beings, yeah, who are Buddhas. We seek refuge in them, but what do they do for us to lead us? The primary way is to give teachings and to show us how to create merit, how to purify our mind, how to gain the realizations. Okay. So because these ceremonies are colorful in Tibetan Buddhism, are they colorful or are they colorful? You know, brocade, high thrones, so many different kinds of hats. It's like a fashion show, you know? And the geshe hats with the little things sticking up, and the pointed hats, and you know, the hats that the Sakya lamas wear, and the hats the Nyingma lamas wear, the hats the Khargyul lamas wear. So many hats, yeah. And then, wow, you go to a puja, you know, we just have, you know, our Vajra and bell, yeah. One day we'll get really professional about this. We'll get a big drum, not the kind that's coming, or the way we have, but a Tibetan drum. And then, you know, especially during the pujas, and especially when you're doing a protector puja, boom, 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 boom. And we already have the wrathful symbols. They're hidden away somewhere, you know, and you boom, boom, and you know, everything shakes. It's like, oh, something important's gonna go on, yeah. And then Tibetan Buddhism, long horns, you know, like from here to where the camera is, short horns, yeah. So many things, effigies, yeah, offerings of all different sizes and shapes, yeah. So many different kinds of chanting, slow chanting, deep chanting, you know. It's you know, it's not boring in a Tibetan puja, is it? And you can be a tourist and go there and it's like, wow, this is really something, you know? Okay. So because these ceremonies are colorful and entertaining, His Holiness says, people are attracted to them, thinking that the performance of a puja in and of itself is virtuous. This is not correct. The virtue or merit created depends on the motivations of the practitioners and their ability to meditate on wisdom and compassion when performing the puja. So when we do pujas, we did Lama Chopa this afternoon, okay, so the people who make offerings, you know, who we pray for, yeah, the virtue or merit they create is going to depend on, you know, if we're focusing when we're doing the puja, or if we're just, you know, Deshin Shebatam Che Dang Pabo Neldorma Chodron, Chodron. This is cool. Bum, bum. You know? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but Amitabha we're doing for a specific reason, you know? And they use that melody in Taiwan. Yeah, I heard it in Taiwan. Okay. Yeah, so the virtue or merit created depends on the motivations of the practitioners and their ability to meditate on wisdom and compassion while performing the puja. So you have a responsibility when you're doing it. And in the Tibetan community, people, the lay people come all the time, and the monastics too, and make offerings and request a Sangha community to do puja. Yeah, and sometimes maybe you get so many requests that it's just, okay, yeah, you know, you just kind of do it just because it's there to be done and people ask. But, you know, we have to really think that when people make offerings, you know, we have a responsibility to create merit and dedicate it for them and for, you know, how they want it to be dedicated. Okay. Yeah, Tibetan Buddhism's so colorful, isn't it? Okay, in saying this, we should not go to the other extreme and say that all pujas and deities are irrelevant. Yeah, it's just, you know, kind of just, it's just like the church, except instead of saints that, you know, in stained glass, we now have tankas and, you know, and we're just worshiping some kind of external being. That's really stupid. You know, why do I have to do it? So His Holiness saying, don't go to that extreme. Okay. I want to back up and just I have a comment about the preceding paragraph about, you know, how some people think that doing the puja is itself, regardless of what's going through your mind, is what creates the virtue. And that's what His Holiness said, no, that's not what creates the virtue. But this is the kind of thing that from the Vedas, you know, and the Brahmins who you know, followed the Vedas and taught them and chanted them, for them, the details, the specific details of what you do and how you do the puja is what makes it virtuous. Okay, in Buddhism, you know, we should do pujas properly, but the emphasis isn't on the performance. The emphasis is in the state of our mind when we're doing it. Okay. Okay, so we shouldn't go to the other extreme and say that all pujas and all deities are irrelevant. The practices of meditation deities, such as Avalokiteshvara, Manjushri, Tara, and so forth, contain profound methods for purifying ignorance, attachment, and animosity, and for perfecting the 6 perfections. Okay? So it may look, when you do these pujas, like you're worshiping, you know, some external deity. But if you really look at the psychology behind the puja, and if you understand properly how to meditate, yeah, it's actually a meditation on refuge, on compassion, on bodhicitta, on emptiness, on generosity, on ethical conduct, all those things, you know, the meaning of all those things is embedded in the puja. Yeah, but if you just look superficially, it looks like, you know, great Lord Mahakala, great fourth, you know, deity, and like you're, you know, praying to some external being. Okay, okay. These deities are emanations of awakened qualities that appear in physical representation so that we can relate to them. Yeah, their pujas are done with the aspiration for liberation, bodhicitta, and the wisdom realizing emptiness. Those who do these practices properly do not worship these deities as external omnipotent gods. Okay, so you can see them as beings who are already enlightened, who have gained the realizations that you want to gain, and relate to them as beings who are showing you the way, who are modeling for you how to think. Yeah, you can see them as representations, a physical representation of internal qualities. Okay, so instead of seeing them as a being, so to speak, you can think of what the qualities are, different qualities of the Buddha. And if they were to take a physical form, they would look like one of the deities. Yeah, so like Manjushri, yeah. So his speciality is wisdom. Yeah. So if you wanted to look at somebody who was really wise, yeah, who had a very clear, decisive, acute mind that could see what is true and what is false, yeah, well, Manjushri's sword is showing you that. And on the other hand, he has, a lotus with the Prajnaparamita text. So it's telling us, Prajnaparamita text, important. Great, clear wisdom that can see things accurately, important. Yeah, he's a golden color. Yeah, gold illuminates our mind. It's, when we feel the sun arising, like wisdom coming into the mind. So he's that kind of color. Yeah, so they have symbolic representations of inner qualities. So we can relate to them that way. A third way we can relate to them is as manifestations of our future Buddhahood. So we're there's Avalokiteshvara in the space in front, and we're relating to him, not as some external being, but as a manifestation of who we're going to be in the future. So this is my potential in a fully manifest form. And you can relate to them that way. Okay. Also, we must differentiate between the practice. Also, we must differentiate between the practice of an ordinary person and the practice of a highly realized master. If a highly realized master propitiates a spirit, he has the ability to control that spirit. Okay, the spirit respects and obeys this master, so there is no danger. However, an ordinary person who propitiates the same spirit is not able to do this, and thus the result of his asking for help becomes more uncertain. It is like two people dealing with a ferocious dog. If the master asks the dog to protect the house, the dog will follow. But if another person does, the dog may turn around and bite him. Okay, so this is relating to propitiating spirits. Then we're getting into an important section here. Unfortunately, the propitiation of the Dogyal spirit, also called Jukten, became popular within certain segments of Tibetan society and has also spread abroad. For many years now, I have steadfastly discouraged people from doing this practice for three principal reasons. Okay, first, as Buddhists, our ultimate refuge is the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Our aim is to penetrate the meaning of the four truths and the two truths, and to generate compassion and bodhicitta, all of which are included in the extensive and profound teachings given by our teacher, the Buddha. So the Buddha gave us everything we need. Yeah. Because Thubten is a worldly spirit, propitiating him degenerates the Buddha Dharma and makes it a form of spirit worship. Okay. So the reason His Holiness is going into this, is because the worship of Thubten became very problematic within the Tibetan community. Yeah. And the practice, apparently the deity is very divisive. And it was telling people, if you follow Jetsun Kappa and your Gelu, do not do any Nyingma teachings, don't do that practice, don't attend those teachings. And it was creating a lot of division in the Tibetan community for that reason. And His Holiness himself does Nyingma practice, and the whole tradition of the Dalai Lamas. There's a whole series of deity practices that came from the pure vision of the fifth Dalai Lama, and those are Nyingma practices. Yeah. So this deity, this spirit was creating that kind of really bad feelings. And His Holiness is quite clear that we are a refuge population and we need to remain united. If we start, fighting amongst ourselves, like the people from Utsang and the people from Amdo and the people from Kham, they're all those are areas in Old Tibet. If they're all competing for power, and same with the Tibetan traditions. It just, who needs more division in this world is basically the point, okay? So part of this also happens because some of the people say that, His Holiness says Thubten is a spirit. There are people in the Tibetan community who say he's a deity. Yeah, so they see Thubten differently. Yeah, and so there's a whole segment, or at least there was, that does a lot of pujas, a lot of worship for Thubten. Yeah, and so in Gelupa monasteries, you had people who did that practice and people who didn't. And it was a very popular practice. Many of my teachers did that practice. And then some years ago, first His Holiness went to his teacher, Trichang Rinpoche, and explained why he wanted to stop doing that practice, because Trichang Rinpoche had initially taught it to him, and His Holiness, through his own experience, realized, no, this isn't a practice that I should be doing. It's not beneficial. And so he told Trichang Rinpoche, who said, yes, I understand, it's fine. So His Holiness stopped practicing that. When there continued to be more divisiveness in the Tibetan community, then he asked all the people in the Gelupa tradition, and kind of in general, all Tibetans don't do this practice. But there were people who just loved that practice, and there was an oracle who lived in one of the Khamsen in Gandhansartse monastery. And, so it was a widely done practice in the Gelu tradition. And so when His Holiness recommended to people that they stop it and explained why, many people did not want to do that. Yeah. And so many people did do that, and they stopped the practice, but His Holiness said, if you're going to come to my teachings, and especially when I give empowerment, then one commitment is that you do not do that practice. So there were people who stopped coming, but, to his things, but then most of the people really, went along with what he said. But it was a quite difficult number of years in the Tibetan community. The Westerners, unfortunately, got involved in this, okay? Geshe Kelsang Gyatso, who was from the Sera Monastery, he was a classmate with Lama Yeshe, and Lama Yeshe was the one who asked him to go and be the resident teacher at Manjushri Institute in the UK. And then, Kelsang Gyatso was a very strong Shukden practitioner, and he really pushed that practice. He gave, all of his students were doing it, and it was a big, big thing for them. And what the students started doing, and I assume this was under Kelsang Gyatso's directions, was when His Holiness was giving teachings in the West, they would go out and wearing their Dharma robe, their chugu, wearing their Dharma robe, go out and protest in front of the venues where His Holiness was teachings. And many of them were monks and nuns, many of them were lay people, and they would scream, Dalai Lama, stop lying, and other such things. So Westerners got involved in that, and it was really, really unpleasant, yeah. And that organization, that he started in the West is very controversial. So, what to say? Okay, if you want to read more about the history of this, if you go to His Holiness's website, they explain it a lot. It's, my feeling is it's really so sad that Westerners had to get involved in this, because this was a completely Tibetan thing. Yeah, it started in Tibet. It was, had to do with the monasteries and how they related. There's absolutely no reason for us to get involved. And so it was really sad when Westerners started getting involved. And then for me personally, to see people, this robe is a precious robe. This is the robe we wear, when we're ordained, when we're hearing teachings, when there's empowerment. It's a precious robe. And it's a Dharma robe. Chogu means Dharma robe. Yeah. So to see people protesting and screaming at the top of their lungs insults for His Holiness, it's just, it was so painful to watch that. Yeah. And just like, why did it even Westerners have to get involved? So anyway, I'm telling you all of this, because you sometimes may meet people who will encourage you to go to the NKT. That was the name of the New Kadampa tradition. That's the name of Kelsang Gyatso's organization. And people may, say come and, whatever, just politely decline. Yeah, we don't want to get involved in any of that stuff. Okay, so His Holiness continues. So he gave the first reason, our ultimate refuge is Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. So that's one first reason why he's discouraging people from doing that, and not wanting Buddhism to degenerate to become spirit worship. Okay, second, Religious tolerance is important within the Tibetan community and among all faiths, and for years I have advocated mutual respect among the various Tibetan Buddhist traditions. I myself do practices from all 4 traditions, Gelu, Nyingma, Kagyu, and Sakya, and encourage others to do so as well. The practice of Jukten is very sectarian and includes threatening those who practice in a non-sectarian way. As such, it creates divisiveness among the various Tibetan traditions. Okay. Then lastly, from the time of the 5th Dalai Lama in the 17th century until the present, the Dugyal spirit has been antagonistic to the Dalai Lamas and the Tibetan government they lead. The propitiation of Jukten has been controversial in both the Sakya and Gelu traditions. Many great Tibetan lamas, including the 5th Dalai Lama and the 13th Dalai Lama, have stated the harmful effects of this practice and advised against it. At this crucial juncture in Tibetan history, we Tibetans must remain unified in support of a representative government. Yeah, and not splinter and start calling each other names and saying the other one doesn't practice well. Yeah. Okay. Leaving spirits aside, what then is the proper way for a sincere practitioner to relate to worldly Dharma protectors? I believe this depends on the culture and the disposition of the individual. Let's say we are initiating an important project that will benefit people. We work with total dedication and sincerity and exert effort to gain the necessary material facilities. But at some point, we find we need others' help. In that case, we can request assistance or inspiration from the various Dharma protectors. Some people may have a stronger karmic connection with one protector than another, just as we form friendships more easily with one person than with another. Still, we are aware that we are responsible for creating the causes for success, both temporal and spiritual. Okay? So this is how he's saying we should relate to these kind of protectors. If you have a need, then you can ask them for support. Okay, but, don't take final refuge in them. Okay, we must always remember that Dharma practice occurs in our mind. Repeat, we must always remember that Dharma practice occurs in our mind. We may go to a temple to meditate, but Dharma practice is not limited to that place. When common people think about Tibetan Buddhism, the picture of a Tibetan monastery with monks wearing hats, playing drums, and chanting in deep voices comes to mind. These external scenes and implements are not Buddhism. Real practice means confronting our own selfishness and cultivating a heart seeking to benefit others. Taking initiations and doing the practices of various deities is a technique to help us develop our inner qualities. If we see these deities as external beings and worship them as omnipotent gods, we have gone beyond the path the Buddha taught. Okay, so when we do Lama Chopa, we are requesting blessings, we're requesting inspiration to gain these realizations. Yeah. When we're requesting inspiration, are we expecting the Buddha to come and go, Now you have realized emptiness. Now you have bodhicitta, you know. Is that what we think is going to happen? Yeah. So what is actually going on when we request inspiration or blessings? Okay, the way I see it is, like His Holiness said, we are always looking outside of ourselves. Yeah. So we project a being who can help us, yeah, and who has those qualities. And then that gives us some feeling like, oh, okay, you know, some Chenrezi, an enlightened being, is on my side. Yeah, Chenrezi wants me to generate bodhicitta because bodhicitta is so wonderful. Yeah, so if I relate to Chenrezi like this, you know, the blessing is my feeling encouraged to meditate on bodhicitta because I see Chenrezi as the exemplar, the perfected emanation of that kind of altruistic intention. Okay, the word blessing in Tibetan, literally translates into transform into magnificence. Okay, so we're trying to transform our mind into a magnificence. Like he just got done saying, that depends on our practice. But when we think of having, you know, these other deities, you know, and beings encouraging us, protecting us, they're behind us, you know, wanting us to be successful in this. This inspires our mind, and then, you know, it opens our mind. When our mind is more open, when we do the meditations to generate compassion or wisdom or whatever, we get more feeling out of it. Okay, so I see it as a psychological method. Okay, now does that mean that there's no being who is Chenrezi and you're just petitioning to a figment of your imagination? No, it doesn't mean that. There are many people who have become enlightened in the aspect of Chenrezi, okay? And when I was questioning His Holiness on this, you know, I think I may have told you this story before, and I was saying, you know, why? What power do they have? You know, if we have to do the practice. And then His Holiness said, well, if you thought of FDR, you know, and made requests to FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, okay, the president who started the New Deal, yeah, he was a great president in that respect in terms of the taking care of Americans and poor people and so on. And His Holiness said, if you request him for blessings, you know, for the path, is he going to be able to, you know, do anything for you? And I kind of had to giggle a little bit, you know, the idea of FDR kind of, you know, inspiring my mind. But then when I thought of Chenrezi, I was like, oh, there was a totally different feeling. Yeah. So requesting Chenrezi, oh, you know, please support me in my development of compassion. I had some feeling for that. I mean, Chenrezi's there with 1,000 arms reaching out to benefit sentient beings, you know, and 11 heads looking at, you know, what's going on. Yeah, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, you know, 2 eyes, 2 arms. What could he do? You know, he was running for re-election, and that was what was important for him. So he was a great president, but he didn't have the ability to lead me to awakening. Okay. And this is what's a little bit scary now in this whole thing of Christian nationalism is, you know, you on January 6th, there were banners then that said, Jesus is my savior, Trump is my president. Yeah, and there's all sorts of references now in the religious right-wing, news. There were 2 assassination attempts on Trump, but God stepped in and saved him. And, things kind of like, well, yeah, God wants Trump to be president. Yeah, because Trump, with Trump as president, then, Christian will be at the top, and we will spread Christianity. Everybody will become Christians, and, and it's pretty intense. Yeah. And so you look at that, and that's that, there's a group called Faithful Americans. Yeah, they're a very, very good group, and they talk about false prophets. Yeah. So in Buddhism too, we shouldn't have false prophets, that are, yeah, like these spirits. Okay. Okay. Building temples and making statues is wonderful. They remind us of the Buddha, but statues cannot speak, although once in a while you meet some that can. So they say. Okay, but statues cannot speak, and engaging with the Buddha's teachings is most important. We need to listen to and meditate on the teachings. We need to study and compare Pali, Tibetan, and Chinese canons, and translate texts that haven't been translated from the other canons. If we request Nagarjuna now for teachings, he would say, I already wrote a lot, but you weren't studying, reflecting, and meditating on it, so there's no need for me to write more now. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he taught a lot, and his teachings are amazing. And we sit there and we listen, and then take a few notes, and then put our notebook away and forget everything. So, whose responsibility is that? Okay, questions, comments? Oh, where do we even start? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh, I thought you had your hand up. Did you have your? Okay, 1, 2, and then we'll.
On the topic of pujas and hats and everything, I was really impressed with the temple in Taiwan and their chanting and instruments, and they had a whisk. We don't have a whisk.
Yeah, we don't have a whisk.
So yes, I was very impressed with that.
Yeah.
With the protests, was that only the Westerners, or were there Tibetans doing those protests?
The protests were in the West. There were sometimes a few Tibetans, but it was mostly Westerners.
Was that mostly coming from the New Kadampa?
Yeah, mostly coming from them. There are some other teachers who do that practice, and so their disciples may have come as well.
Just this material is very interesting, and I'm happy that you explained the whole NKT thing. I haven't heard it laid out so clearly before, and before I came here, I was going to an NKT center for some time, and they never mentioned anything about Shugden or His Holiness, but something felt strange. But the practice of Dharma protectors, it just makes me think that the psychological profile of Tibetans is quite different than Westerners, because I don't think most Westerners, maybe some do get involved in that, but we certainly don't here. I mean, I've never heard anything about anybody doing anything with a Dharma protector at the Abbey.
Oh, I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So,
have. No, I don't push that here, you know. And I just say Tara's our protector.
yeah, Tara is.
And, you know, and karma is our real protector. Yeah, but no, there's some people that, Westerners, who are quite involved in it.
And I had a question. Oh, about gaining awakening in the form of a deity. So people, yeah, I don't know much about Highest Yoga Tantra, but this idea that these deities are sort of blueprints that people aspire to become, or does
Yeah.
anyone just become a Buddha in their own version? Like, how do you decide?
Yeah, I used to joke I would become a Buddha holding a Kleenex box in one hand and I forget what I was holding in the other hand because I had very bad allergies at that time, you know, so I joked about it. No, the deities, there's many people who can become those deities. So it's not, you know, there isn't just one Chenrezig, yeah? So people can meditate on Chenrezig or Yamantaka or Vajrayogini, whoever it is, and they usually will have one practice that they emphasize, and then when they do the generation and completion stage practices and attain the realizations, then they manifest in the aspect of that particular deity. Yeah, but then they can also appear as other deities later, yeah? Because the appearance of a deity is just an appearance to be able to communicate with sentient beings. So when you're an omniscient Buddha, you can appear as anything.
I just wanted to say a little bit about that, the NKT protests. When we were in Australia to see His Holiness, I was at a different place staying, and every day I had to walk past that group, and they were so aggressive, and the things they were saying were so disturbing. And I had to talk with you because I was pretty new, you know, and it's like, this is Buddhism? It was so icky, you know, it really bothered me so much. Yeah, and they wore their robes very kind of weirdly, and they had, some of them had long hair, and, you know, and all the ones there were Caucasian, you know, and probably Australians, I guess,
Yeah.
but so good.
Did you have? Don't worry, we'll get to this side of the room. We're not prejudiced against this side.
I really love the Sir practice with Chenrezig. The beings that we are connecting and having a relationship with, where do they fit within this realm of Dharma protectors?
Yeah, so with the Sir practice, those are beings who, because of karma, were born as a spirit. Yeah, and so just kind of regular beings who don't have bodies that we can see. Yeah, but they get hungry, so we make offerings to them.
I mean, it's really beautiful sometimes when I can really feel like I'm making an offering to someone who's really accepting it.
Yeah.
You know, my mind is in a mind of bodhicitta and of generosity, and using Chenrezig as sort of the person with me as I'm
Yeah.
doing it, you know, it's
Yeah.
just a stunning practice. And the land really seems to appreciate it, like this is their home too, and bringing them close and letting them know that they're safe here and that they can be cared for, and cleaning up whatever karma we as a collective community ever did in relationship to them.
Yeah.
It's really a beautiful, but having Chenrezig as the forefront of the practice is really
Right.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's not just you, it's Chenrezig doing that, yeah.
In Penang, there is one what's it called, the vegetable dealer center, and there's a huge Shodan statue. And then it stated there, I think it's god of deity of wealth of something. And then, but I was looking at this, I didn't see any Buddha statues. And then I was realizing, is it called part of the Buddhism? And I asked my auntie, said, please do not go to, and request anything from there.
Yeah, if there's no Buddha statue, then it's probably, because in Malaysia and Singapore, there's all these little temples that worship spirits. Yeah. Anything else? Uh-huh.
I know I had a lot of aversion to the request for inspiration prayer for a long time at the beginning because it felt so much asking an external being. And so now when I'm leading it, I say that we're making a request to our teachers and the Buddhas, but also kind of a request to ourselves to develop those qualities. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I think it's a very skillful way to say to ourselves, I need to practice this. Uh-huh. Okay. Tracy?
I just wondered where Nagas fit in the, are they
Nagas
Dharma?
are said to be in the animal realm. Yeah. Hold on.
With the inspiration, though, I kind of think about the different Buddhas and deities offer us inspiration by, like Chenrezig shows us what compassion looks like.
Yeah.
Shows us, the statues show symbolism of it, but then we have the teachings on it. If it was just the symbolism, if it's just a statue, we didn't have the teachings on compassion, we wouldn't recognize the symbolism, I believe. But because we have those teachings, that can remind us of those teachings.
Yes.
And we don't really know what perfected compassion looks like unless we meet compassionate beings. I think about generosity, and I have learned generosity not just because people have verbally told me about it, but because I have seen it.
Seen it, yes.
So, yeah, and when I walk past the statues, I use them to remind myself, may I continuously be inspired to progress for the benefit of all.
Yeah. What? Flying, oh, okay. Okay, shall we dedicate then?
May the spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it, have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Love Song's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami.
Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May the born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig, may you stay until samsara ends. May the deeds of explaining and practicing the Dharma, done by groups supporting the teachings and their upholders, who spread the view of dependent arising and non-violent actions in the 10 directions, and especially at Sravasti Abbey in the west.